that they must roll, if they have a cylinder in their factory that's been standing there for a while with gases in it of different densities, that they must roll a cylinder before they send it out, because the densities of the gases has caused, due to it being static, has caused a density gradient within the container. But the problem with this, why I'm using this, I'm going to unshare now. Why I'm using this, Austin, is gases are not affected by electrics or magnetics.
Objection, dude.
Hold on. Objection is stated. Go ahead. What's it? State your objection.
Sorry. Yeah, he's straw manning me. I don't know anything about this, dude. I haven't even said anything about gases yet. We were talking about the gravimeter.
Yeah, but you stated.
1 second.
You do not.
1 second, Brian. Hold on, Brian.
Yeah.
Whitsitt stating that it was a straw man. I was going to ask you, Brian, what is your claim? We'll get back to the objection here in a second, Whitsitt. Can you get, what is your claim associated with what you just demonstrated or provided?
My claim is that I'm showing relative density equilibrium happens within gases too, when they are left static and under a constant temperature.
Okay, is that it? No, keep it short.
No, it's that gases are not affected by electricity or magnetism, whereas Whitsitt that all matter has electric charge, and he claimed that it's a static static charge, static electricity that's causing the upward and downward vectors, whereas this disproves that.
Okay, so you're conflating electrostatics and electricity. Those are not the same thing. So electricity is the hybrid of magnetism and dielectricity. The electrostatics and dielectricity are interchangeable. So you are consistently conflating electricity, which is the hybrid, with electrostatics. Those are not the same thing. That's why I went to the gravimeter, because we haven't even gotten to the actual crux yet, because I'm just asking, do you agree with the efficacy of the technology of the gravimeter?
Right. Whitsitt, stop. That is, Brian, that was the initial claim. So I'd like to go back there to Whitsitt's claim right there, because that was the initial claim. Any problems with that?
About whether I agreed with the gravimeter being, do I have any issues with the gravimeter? What question am I being asked?
The technology itself.
Yeah, but the technology itself is flawed because it was designed for a completely different reason.
No. What's wrong with the technology specifically? I'm not claiming the cause of the people that go and run around talking about it. I'm talking about the technology itself.
Is it science or pseudoscience then, Austin?
It is scientifically valid. It's bulletproof because it is measuring the change in acceleration, and that's all I'm invoking it to do.
Okay. But you're claiming. I just would like to get your claim. Right, please give me your exact claim on why you're saying things take a downward or upward acceleration.
Okay, so the gravimeter measures a variance in acceleration, a change in velocity, right, with this little BB. The Earth has an electrical field. There's an electrostatic nature to the Earth, and this acceleration varies in different parts of the Earth in the gravimeter. Right, and that's because it's a variance within the field that the thing is dropping within. That's why I'm asking specifically: do you see any issues with the technology itself? Right, because it's very delicate and precise.
Yeah, I do. For a start, as I said earlier, there's two different gravimeters. There's an absolute and there's a relative. The relative is calibrated off of the absolute, and the absolute is basically it's using interferometry, and it's using an unnatural situation where something is dropped in a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum, so it's unnatural. But the calibrated relative gravimeter uses accelerometers. Now, do you know the two types of accelerometers?
Real fast. I've already conceded it's an accelerometer. I'm asking you point blank, are you disputing the efficacy of measuring the acceleration, or do you agree that it's efficiently measuring the change in acceleration? Yes or no?
An acceleration of what?
Oh.
The little BB being dropped.
Yep. 1 second. It's a close-ended question. Yes or no? Just ask it clearly one more time. What's it?
Do you agree that it's efficiently measuring the change in acceleration?
Do I agree that it's efficiently? This is the. Are you talking about the absolute gravimeter or the relative?
Yes.
Okay. Would you please just throughout the rest of this state which one you're speaking about? Not for me, but for the audience. You're asking me, is that efficiently measuring the acceleration of the BB that's dropped?
Correct.
Through a vacuum. Yes, they drop through the vacuum and they measure it with interferometry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely. It's not measuring it in standard units. It's calculated. In the end of the day, it's a calculation. So it's precise, calculatory. That's maybe the best answer I could give to you.
Okay, well, objectively, it is efficiently measuring the change in acceleration. This is a bulletproof technology, right? Now, their claim of the cause, I do not claim that. I'm not a crazy person. So I don't believe in gravitational fields, right? The Earth's electrostatic, there's a field, there's a variance within that field that affects the acceleration. The accelerometer or the gravimeter is measuring the changes within that acceleration.
Well, you might see it as a bulletproof technology. I don't. Because
would you like to specify contention, please?
Yeah, there's a problem there because there's two types. There's the absolute, then there's the relative. The relative is using accelerometers in the field, yes, gaining raw data. That's true, yes?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Can you please state, now I don't need the exact names, but can you please state the two different types of accelerometers, just how they work?
No, because you're dragging me through the mud, and I've asked you a point-blank question 5 times. Do you agree with the efficacy of the technology? Is it accurately showing us an actual change in velocity, yes or no?
Is it showing us it's not showing us anything. It's giving us a calculation in the end.
No, it's not calculating it. It's measuring with interferometry, like crossing patterns of lasers to measure the change in velocity of the BB.
Yes, but the interferometry is also using the speed of light.
We've already discussed this.
Yeah, but the speed of light is a calculation with it.
Yeah. Okay, stop. I see where this is going to go. This is going to go in a circling direction. So, Witzett's question was, do you agree with the observed effect brought to you by the gravimeter, whether it be the relative or the absolute?
Do I agree with the observed effect? I don't observe the effect.
But the gravimeter shows you the effect.
Well, I've never used the gravimeter. I've only learned about them.
All right,
so
let's say, and I'll hand it back over to Witzett because we want to move on quickly after this because we're beating this one to death. What he's trying to say, the observed effect via this piece of technology is it is measuring downward acceleration. It's a BB within a vacuum chamber, and they're measuring it many different places on the Earth. He's wanting to know if the efficacy is valid.
Okay. What they're measuring, what they're doing is observing an effect of something heavier falling through a medium that can't support it.
Yes, and that's what's it's asking you. Yes or no? They're
observing that. We're observing a denser object falling through a less dense medium.
What's it?
Yeah. We haven't gotten that far, right? I'm making sure that before we can move on, you agree with the effect is being accurately measured.
I don't, because it's not being measured.
So downward acceleration isn't being measured?
They're not. Are you talking about the absolute?
The relative. It doesn't really matter. Both of them are doing the same thing.
Accelerometers.
Okay.
We're talking about accelerometers, because using accelerometers in the field.
Do you agree? This is objective. This isn't even debatable. I'm trying to help you out here. This is objective, dude. It is measuring acceleration, dude. Downward acceleration and the changes within. Okay, objectively.
The relative or the absolute?
Okay, we're going. I'm going to stop it because we're going back and forth in the same direction. Right? The question is. Yeah, thanks. I didn't ask you. Stupid phone. Hold on 1 second, gentlemen.
No worries.
I start talking, my phone 8 feet away from me starts to answer. I ain't even asking a question, so shut up. So we're going back and forth between a relative and objective gravitometry. If I were to make up a word, all Whitsitt is asking you, I'm going to say this one more time, and then we're going to move on. And maybe we can't move on from this if this is his base point. What he's asking you is the observed effect. Are we observing the effect that it's showing us? Yes or no?
No, we're not. We're not observing it.
Okay. He said, Whitsitt, you got it?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's just objectively wrong. Okay, so it is objectively measuring the observable phenomena of downward acceleration. Now, no one in this debate is disputing that phenomena. We all observe it consistently. What the dispute is about is the causal agent.
I am disputing that.
All right, hold on a second. Let Whitsitt finish, Brian.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah, obviously there's not a consistent definitive downward acceleration. That's actually what the gravimeter demonstrates because it shows a fluctuation within acceleration, but it's objectively measuring the observable phenomena, the effect of downward acceleration and the changes within.
Done.
Okay.
Remember, gentlemen, when you're finished with your point, say done or finished so you don't overtalk each other, and please allow the other person to finish. Most of you guys are being concise for the most part, and I want to continue that. All right. So, Brian, rebut.
Okay, Kiwi. Obviously, I don't agree with the claim of a downward acceleration, and I'm not trying to say that Whitsitt is claiming gravity. Right? That's not my point. My point is that I did ask Austin to define when he was speaking about the gravimeter, whether he was speaking about which one he was speaking about while he was speaking about them, whether he was speaking about the absolute or the relative. And why I've asked Austin to to give me the description of the two different types of accelerometers is because the relative gravimeter is using an accelerometer. I know how the both types of accelerometers work, and I know they have nothing to do with a downward acceleration.
All right, you done?
Yeah.
Please tell us the difference. This is going to help not only me, but the audience members. Please tell us the difference, you, Brian, the difference between the relative and the objective gravitometer. Gravimeter? Go.
Yeah, okay. The absolute is kept stationary majority of the time, mostly in one place. It is a big unit. It involves a vacuum chamber, a vacuum tube, a tube that's vacuumed out, where they're dropping, like when I read about it, they're dropping a mirror and using interferometry to calculate. They say measure, but I'm saying calculate the length of time it takes for this mirror to fall through this vacuum tube.
Okay. Now the relative one.
Yeah, the relative one is calibrated off of this absolute, and the relative one is used in the field. That's the one they can bring. It's a small one they can bring around with them, and that uses accelerometers. And that's using accelerometers, which is begging the question by the name accelerometer. That begs the question that there is an acceleration happening.
All right.
So accelerometers there is two types of accelerometers, and they're usually either using one or the other within those machines, and none of those have anything to do with acceleration.
All right, stop just for my education, because I do not know the difference between objective and relative gravimeters. Are you saying that the objective one, and this is just for me, sorry to interrupt, but I need to understand this myself. Are you saying the objective and the relative gravimeters are different conceptually?
Yeah, it's actually, for you, so you know, and for the audience, it's absolute and relative.
I'm sorry, absolute and relative. Yeah. Are they different conceptually? You said the absolute has a vacuum chamber with a pebble dropping down through it. You're saying the relative ones don't use that same?
No, they're not using the same. They're not using the same system.
Okay, thanks. What's it?
System.
Were you aware of that?
Yeah, that's not true. So the absolute and the relative actually both do use interferometry, the same thing. The relative is just a more portable device, and they go around and they go from place to place to place to place so that they can supposedly map out the difference in the gravitational field. But all they're doing is measuring the difference. So the only difference is that it's a portable device that they're moving to different locations to get like the relative acceleration to the location.
You finished?
Yeah, done.
Yeah. So we have an impasse here between knowing what the technology background of both of these machines. There's an impasse here, and I don't think we're going to resolve it here by arguing back and forth. Can we move on to another topic within the same topic, or is this a standstill at this point?
We can move on if I can just like conclude, so I can actually get to my point. This has been like kind of pulling teeth, and it's been very reiterative. But my point was simply that objectively, they go out and they get a different rate of acceleration around the world in different locations. And so they claim it's for gravitational field, which is nonsense and is relative to mass. But we do see a difference in acceleration. And this is because the Earth has an electric field. There's a variance within that electric field of the electrostatic nature of the Earth. And so when you drop this all around it, you're going to get a variance in acceleration. That's what it measures.
Done?
Done.
Do you understand what he's telling you?
Yeah, I understand exactly what's being said.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem is that they're measuring the supposed acceleration with accelerometers, and they don't measure an acceleration. That's why I've asked them to detail the two types of accelerometers that there is.
All right, maybe you're right, Kiwi. We can move on. I think that I've laid my point out pretty accurately. It's objectively measuring acceleration because something's dropping, going to the ground, and accelerating. They're using interferometry patterns to measure the acceleration and the velocity change within.
Yeah, but that's why we need to go through what accelerometers are and what the two types are. See, this is the argument, Austin, why things are taking a downward or upward vector. And that's why I brought up the gases earlier, because gases are not affected by any type of electrostatics.
Let's stick with that. Let's stick with that one. We're going to move on from the gravimeter, and let's stick with your claim, Brian. Please repeat that claim and say done.
Okay. Gases are not affected by electrostatics, electricity, or magnetism. They are completely unbonded molecularly, and they are free to move about, and they are not manipulative. They can't be manipulated only by temperature and volume of the container.
Done?
So that's just to manipulate them.
Done?
Yes, sorry, done. Sorry.
Yeah, I know it's hard to remember that. What's it? Rebuttal?
Yeah. Technically, that isn't true. Actually, you can use magnetic fields to push gases in certain directions. Gases also clearly they disperse omnidirectional, right? They have infinite vectors, but with a strong enough field, it actually will not allow the gas to penetrate this energy field. You can replicate this numerous different ways with demonstrations. But of course, gas is let's say its velocity is so much greater than this very negligible bias that it's not going to affect the inherent dispersal of gas. But once again, you can in fact replicate that a magnetic field will not allow gas to penetrate it. Done.
So when you say a magnetic field, can you support that? Because are you speaking about gas or ionized gas, which is plasma?
Plasma is also electrostatics and magnetism.
Yeah, I've never seen any gas being affected by magnetism ever. I've never been able to.
Okay, sorry, I don't have it pulled up, but I mean, I can send it to you or whatever. But yeah, you can actually demonstrate that if you have a magnetic field, it will actually cause the dispersal of gas to be relative to the magnetic field.
Okay, we have a magnetic field to the north, right? Now, I don't know what it is or what generates it. I just know that there is a magnetic field to the north. Compasses point to the north. The north is where our magnetic field is. But that doesn't seem to have any effect that I'm aware of on the gases that we have in our atmosphere.
Well, perfect segue, actually. You're making my point for me right now. So we have a natural magnetic field on the Earth, which would actually affect the dispersal, i.e. the gradient. So we have a higher introduction of gas at the surface. Is a very big portion of it because we have more gases there, and they're constantly being cycled here, so most of them don't leave the surface. But we have a magnetic field here. And like I told you, you can actually demonstrate that magnetic fields will affect the directionality of gas if strong enough. So it would be a logical deduction that since we have a magnetic field on Earth, it would have some effect on the dispersal of gas that we have here.
Sorry, as I said, I have yet to see any evidence that gas can be affected in any way by magnetism. And we have a magnetic field, and we also have gases behaving exactly the same to the north of us. No matter how far north you go, the gases behave the same as they do south. So there is no effect on the gases that we have in our atmosphere plane, let's say. There's no observable effect that this magnetic field has on these gases. And this is the most notable magnetic field we know of.
Okay, maybe this, most people, when we ask the globe zealots, we're like, can you demonstrate gas pressure without a container? And then their ignorant selves come around and they show us containers. One of the things they'll show you is within a container, if you have a magnetic field, that the gas will actually disperse relative to that. Have you never seen this demonstration that the globers run around? This is an actual demonstration that can be replicated. The magnetic field will, in fact, affect the gas, but of course, it still has to be in a container to have the pressure, so they're stupid. But my point remains.
Are you
Done.
talking about a fusion reactor?
Sure.
Yeah,
that's one of the demonstrations.
That's not gas, that's plasma. Ionized gas.
Okay.
I can tell you how it works. They fill the fusion reactor with a high density of hydrogen, and then they heat it to the point where it becomes plasma. And they have a toroidal field, which is a magnetic field, around the bottom of the reactor. And the reason is that they can only contain the plasma with that field, as there's no solid that they can put around the plasma, because the plasma is too hot and will melt anything they put around it. So they control the plasma at the bottom of that reactor with electromagnetism. But that's only when it's plasma, not as a gas.
Right, because it's a more condensed state. But like my point is that there's a logical framework here that we have in a magnetic field on the Earth. There's a resonance on the Earth, right? And so the density being the primary causal of the dissipation of gas, which you can only have a gradient in a closed dynamic system like we have. Like a closed system is the only way you can have a gradient. But to say that electrostatics plays no role would be intellectually dishonest, because you can't actually exclude electrostatics. We have a resting resonance, right? We have a magnetic field, and we know this. So again, just to clarify, my point here is gases are going to disperse in any and all directions, period, because its velocity is so much stronger, its energy is so much stronger than electrostatics, which is damn near negligible. But to just pretend that since it's weaker, it doesn't exist would be, not particularly efficient.
Well, I never said that it didn't exist. What I said is there was no evidence to support it causing a downward or upward vector of matter. That's what was my point. And that's why I showed the video at the start. And I asked you those two questions about Anthony's experiment and about whether he proved his positive hypothesis or not. So
no,
I never said that. I actually have a video on my channel showing how the ocean's movement is caused by a magnetic field, electric charge, and convection. So I don't deny that at all. I just deny that there is evidence to support a downward and upward vector. Done.
Okay, so again, I said this at the beginning, that if you manipulate the density of the medium, the effect that has, the energy that's resultant of that, is so much stronger than electrostatics, which is very negligible. We can demonstrate this through experiment, okay, like on the smallest scales that we can replicate. There's a resting electrostatic potential to everything, like even these subatomic particles that I don't necessarily agree with the material nature claim of, whatever. So the point is just that it is there. Okay, and that's what is inherent or intrinsic within the downward bias. We have a natural up and down. Now, typically flat earthers just say, well, there's just an up and down, and that's all that they say, but they don't ever address why. But you're claiming, inherently in your claim, what you're saying is that the only causal relationship is relative density, and I am clearly stating that cannot be true, because everything is inherently electrostatic. So that means it also plays a factor. All you're doing is manipulating the control variable of the density of the medium.
Done.
Yeah, but see, the thing about it is that we can show, I can show, anyone can show demonstration of this, how the how when I'm walking, if I jump off a wall, right, I will go down as my density is more than the gases around me, so I land on the ground. If I jump into water, my density of my body is more structurally supported than it will be if I'm jumping through gas. If I jump onto a solid, it will, like the ground, it'll be totally supported. So there is a natural support for matter given by matter. And even with gases within a steel container, it still happens that the less dense gases will end up rising, right, up towards the top of the container, and the more dense gases will be at the bottom, because the more dense matter has better structural support. So, I mean, I can show this. Like Anthony showed it. This is a constant in our world. It's constantly happening. This density, it happens to gases, liquids, solids. I mean, the water cycle is a great example of it.
All right, finish out your point. What's the claim with this one?
Well, my claim is that this is a natural thing that happens all the time within matter, whether it be gases, liquids, solids. That structural support happens. Density gradients happen due to structural support. That all matter needs structural support from more dense matter.
Okay.
That's my.
What's it?
Yeah, so once again, density is not being disputed to play a factor here. I've already conceded that it's very, very prominent in the actual effect. And this gets into a more complicated technical discussion, which is what is weight, right? But really what we call weight, or the downward acceleration, it's relative to a variance of factors, not just density. It's relative to the vector, it's relative to the coherency, it's relative to the location. So it's many factors. And when you just talk about density, you're not discussing the entirety of the phenomena. You're only discussing and manipulating and varying the control variable of the density of the medium. This is not the entirety of the explanation of the phenomena. I also can screen share where oxygen is affected by magnetism if you would like to see it.
Hold on would you like to see that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Go ahead, Whitsitt. Tell me when you're ready. And I think I already got it. 1 second. You are up. Whitsitt?
All right. So as you see here,
before we start, what did you just say there in the last? Because you said several different things at one time, and I missed. I've only got some of it. Before you talked about the oxygen with the magnetism. What was it you said previous to that?
Yeah. That wait.
Just before we go on to the video. Okay. If I say to you, tell me if you agree or disagree with this. So, an object's or substance's weight is caused by its inherent density found within the confines of its volume. Would you disagree with that?
No, that's a very big factor, but that isn't all of it.
Okay, but can you show manipulate? Can you show a demonstration of your claim?
Yes.
Okay, you can show you can show not just a piece of paper being affected by electricity that's been added to it. I'm talking about in the natural world.
Okay. So you just asked me what my claim was, and then you started arguing against it. But yeah, weight or acceleration is relative to many things. Density is one of these things. So the way we all agree with this one, right? We can demonstrate this one. A 5-year-old can't push a sumo wrestler over, but when they get in a pool, she can push him because you manipulate the density of sumo wrestlers in, right? But also coherency is one of the things that I said. So everything's incoherent if it isn't coherent. This is the molecular alignment of an object. So if I take a magnet, which there are naturally occurring magnets, right? Lodestone, for example, and I drop it to something that's metal, it's going to accelerate way faster. The only thing that was manipulated was the actual coherency of the field. This demonstrates objectively, irrefutably, that the coherency of an object will directly affect the acceleration rate.
Yeah, well, I mean, the density of whatever object it is, if it's steel, it's going to accelerate pretty fast, more than a feather. You know what I mean? A piece of steel will fall faster than a feather, for various reasons. Obviously, the feather is shaped different. It can air resistance and all that with the feather will cause the feather to go slow. But if you take if you make that feather into steel, it will fall very fast. So that's true. I totally agree. You know what I mean? I don't have disagreement with that, but your claim, I'm not saying you demonstrate your claim. That's the problem.
I just told you how you can demonstrate it. I said that if you for example, you know how to make a magnet, right? It's incoherent before you make it a magnet, right? And you can go like, this isn't natural. Well, that's why I told you there's naturally occurring magnets also. Okay, this is a naturally occurring phenomenon. But like if you use molten metal or you introduce voltage, you can align the molecular alignment of them, making it a magnet. So if I take the neodymium iron boron piece of metal, right, and I drop it, it's going to fall at a certain rate. Then I introduce voltage to it or molten metal, and it now makes it coherent. It's going to drop much faster if what it's dropping to is metal or has metal within it. This demonstrates objectively that we've manipulated and varied the factor of coherency, and that has affected the acceleration rate. So I told you that weight was relative to a handful of things, one of them being coherency. You can practically demonstrate this.
Hang on. Okay. What is coherency? Please define that.
Okay, so it's the molecular alignment of the object. So if something's incoherent, it's basically, let's say, discombobulated. It's going in any and all directions, right? That's how you make a magnet. You put voltage into it, it's going to overpower the resting resonance of the magnet. It's going to align the molecules all in the same direction that you introduced the voltage to because it's stronger, and that's how you make a magnet. So you've increased the coherency of it. Now it's coherent. Magnetism is falsely attributed to just being coherent, but there's also incoherent magnetism because everything's inherently magnetic or electrostatic. So coherency has to do with the molecular alignment.
So are you saying when you make a piece of metal, see this is what I'm trying to get, right? There's two problems. I'm just going to work with this one for a second. Are you saying that when you add magnetism, you speed up the acceleration?
Yeah.
Right. Now I get it. Right.
Okay.
But what has that got to do with reality? How, like what you're doing there? I asked you earlier whether the Earth had a constant positive or negative charge, and you said no. So what
did I say, Brian?
What did you say then?
Yeah, I said that even if something's neutral, it has a resting electrostatic potential. The Earth is the dielectric plane. So even at neutral, it still has a resting electrostatic potential.
Okay, so you're saying that the Earth doesn't have a constant positive or negative charge to it?
I'd say that it's the dielectric plane or inertial plane. People call it neutral in academia.
Well, if it's neutral, then it doesn't have either. So there's no reason for something to be attracted to it.
If something's neutral, it still has a resting electrostatic potential, though.
Yeah, but potential doesn't mean definite. Like if I take a bar magnet that has a positive and negative side. I hold the negative side to the floor and I drop it, it will fall to the floor. If I take it up and turn it around and hold the positive side to the floor and drop it, it will fall to the floor. So if there was a magnetic effect, then either the positive or the negative would be repelled. But we don't see that.
Okay, I've once again explained that actually the Earth's dielectric, it's neutral, and that there's no such thing as repulsion and attraction. This is a misnomer, right? Like when magnets attract to one another, they're not attracting, they're accelerating towards the null pressure point because each magnet is putting out an energy field and it's mediating the pressure relative to its energy field. And so they're going to accelerate to the null pressure between it. But the Earth's a resting electrostatic potential, which is my entire point. It's damn near negligible, but intellectually dishonest to dismiss it entirely. You can't just hand wave dismiss it because it's still there. So if an object falls to the ground, it's electrostatic, the Earth's electrostatic, so inherently the acceleration is electrostatic. Static meaning, of course, still, right? Not moving, stationary. But once it starts to move, it's no longer still, it's accelerating. The motion increases the energy output.
Okay, but this is the problem. You're saying it's negligible, and then you're trying to so you're saying it's a negligible thing until someone leaves something fall, and then suddenly there is a positive and negative attraction happening downward.
I said damn near negligible, and yes, that's objectively true because as you increase the acceleration, it's no longer static; it's in movement.
Yeah, but your claim is that everything has this thing in it, and when we leave something go, it falls to the ground, and that's because of an attraction. Yes?
Well, yeah, because electrostatics, like incoherent magnetism, is still attractive. Right? No matter what, incoherent magnetism, which is the same thing as electrostatics, okay, it's always attractive. I can demonstrate this also, but we're still trying to get to the other demonstration I was going to show you, right? But like we can demonstrate this as you increase the quote unquote mass, which is conceptual abstraction, reifying gravity. We all know mass is nonsense. But as you increase the incoherent mass, it actually has a disproportionate effect on the strength of the pull, meaning as it gets bigger, it gets weaker. They inverted this so they could tell us that planets revolve or whatever. But we can demonstrate this by increasing the mass of incoherent magnets.
So you're saying that when something is being let fall, that there is an attraction towards the ground magnetically.
Yeah, once again, that's what creates the bias, but it's a damn near negligible because electrostatics is so weak because it's incoherent, it's discombobulated, it doesn't have molecular alignment.
Well, then it's not connected to the vector of up and down then.
It is inherently because incoherent magnets are always attractive only.
But
we can demonstrate this. I have a real issue where flat earthers go around and say, well, we need to practically demonstrate things. We need to practically, but my practical demonstrations are currently being hand wave dismissed. I can practically, this is what science is, right? I can practically demonstrate that as you increase the mass of an incoherent magnet, more so the matter compilation, it's going to become weaker. We can demonstrate this.
All right, I think this point has run its course. Witsit, you wanted to show something here. Could you go ahead and reshare, and then we'll get to that point? 1 second. You are up.
All right, so this is the paramagnetism of oxygen. We'll play through it. So here we go. We have oxygen. Now we're going to introduce it to a magnetic field, and the gas is actually going to act relative to the magnetic field that's encompassing it. So to say that magnetism has no effect on anything but ionized plasma is not true. So as this changes its state to oxygen, we will see that in fact the very magnet itself affects the oxygen.
1 second, Witsit, allow Brian to catch up because it's lagging for him. Let us know when you see this, Brian.
I can see it on screen now, Kiwi. I don't see. Could you tell me what's happening here, Austin?
Yeah, again, the magnetic field here is going to directly affect the dispersal of this oxygen, as you can see where I'm pausing it and bringing it back so you can catch up.
So there's a phase change here happening, is there? From
yes, I already said that.
What's being poured? So it's a liquid oxygen, is it? Is that what you're saying? It's being poured, and there's a phase change happening.
Yes, this is oxygen condensed into a liquid form, but then as it turns into its gaseous state, the actual magnet itself will affect the dispersal of that gas in the gaseous state. This is a practical demonstration. So,
well, what is it doing to it?
It's not allowing it to disperse freely because the magnetic field's having an effect on the oxygen.
Okay, can we just go back a little bit on the video again, just to see it again, please?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. Yeah, could you just go back to see it so you can see the whole apparatus, please? I just want to see the whole apparatus, not just the two, not just the positive and negative, the whole lot with the guy there, if you don't mind. I want to be able to see the whole lot.
It's hard to narrate it live time with your delay, but like, so.
I just want to see, if you just go back, I just want to see the whole lot because the problem here is that what I see happening is that the phase change is not happening correctly. That's what's happening there, because we can't see.
Whitsit, go on mute.
It is dispersing. I mean, when you were showing that there, it was dispersing. I mean, it was dispersing. We can't see. It was in a denser form. It looked more like condensed water vapor, water to liquid. Sorry, like condensed vapor. Sorry, not water vapor, but condensed vapor. That steam there looks more like condensed vapor. We can't see oxygen. So what's happening here is it's affecting the phase change. The magnetism is affecting the phase change. That's what I see happening there.
Okay, so you see that it's actually causing it to loop back down around. This is what magnetic fields do.
It has
so you can't see the magnetic field either. But look, as oxygen gets more and more into the gaseous state.
Okay, hold up. Brian, let Whitsit finish his point. He'll say done, and then you can rebut. Go ahead, Whitsit.
I apologize.
Yeah, so as this is turning into the gaseous form, as opposed to just going in all directions upward, right? Like the magnetic field, which is a toroid, as we all know, this is actually causing it to loop back down. So this is showing that magnetism can affect a gaseous state.
Okay, are you done? Can I go?
Yes.
Yeah, done, my bad.
Okay. Yeah, well, I don't see that happening here. What I see here is the phase change is being affected by the magnetism. Whereas the liquid is becoming a vapor, and then it is phase changing into. That's why I wanted to see all the apparatus as it was happening, but they're just showing this one area. They're not showing what's happening to all of the oxygen vapor that has gone down the way. The reason it's going down at all is because it's not after phase changing yet, because gases don't have a downward vector. They have a vector in all directions, so that's still a vapor. So what's happening here is the magnetism is affecting the vapor, because magnetism will affect fluids, can affect certain fluids. Yes, I agree with that. But what I see here is it's just affecting the phase change of oxygen.
All right, what's it? Hold on, Brian. What's it? Rebuttal.
Yeah, so of course you're right. It would have more of an effect in the liquid state. It's a more concentrated form of the matter. But we know that this is in lifetime turning into oxygen in this gaseous state. Now it wants to go up, but this magnetism is actually causing it to stay concentrated in a toroidal manifest or form of movement around the source of magnetism. It's right there. We're all watching it.
Well, I'm not seeing oxygen. I'm seeing a vapor, because oxygen we can't see. Excuse me. Oxygen we can't see, and oxygen moves in all directions. You're not affecting oxygen. You're affecting the phase change, not oxygen.
So are you effectively saying that there would be no way to demonstrate it then?
Well, there isn't, because it doesn't happen.
All right, all right, hold up. Let's round out this point. I think we beat this one to death. Let's go ahead and round out the point. Whitsit first, and then Brian, quick rebuttal, and then on to the next claim, or finish up, and I'll leave that up to you, gentlemen. Whitsit first.
Yeah, simply I'm just showing that. I stopped screen sharing. So of course, the only way that you could actually attempt to practically demonstrate this was to take it from the liquid state and then have it to change, right? To just say, well, since you can't see oxygen, then we know it's not happening is intellectually dishonest. We're watching it change to the gaseous state right here, and in the gaseous form, in the process of change, it is clearly not allowing it to disperse in all directions as it wants to, or even fall down as it wants to. It's making it loop around the magnet, and it's continuously turning into the gaseous form. He continues to add the liquid just so that you can continue to see the process.
Brian, short rebuttal. Yeah. Whitsit will have the final word after you.
Yeah, okay. For a start, no, I am not being intellectually dishonest. I am just detailing exactly what knowledge I have and what I see. What I see there is a phase change being affected by magnetism, and I see a very small amount of the vapor around where the two magnets are nearly meeting. That's what I see. I see the rest of the vapor going down because it's a vapor, and then it is turning into oxygen, but we don't see that because when it turns into oxygen, we can't see oxygen. That's what I'm seeing there. I'm not seeing magnetism affecting oxygen, as that is the practical demonstration for real life. That's what you would have to show. Because I can hold a magnet up in front of me here, and it won't affect the oxygen in the room at all. That's what you need to demonstrate. So that's the thing. You need to demonstrate that to prove that magnetism can affect gases.
I agree we should move on, but just to clarify, what you're basically saying is it's impossible to demonstrate it because you can't see it, so that when we see what's happening when we can see it, we know it's affecting it, but that when you can't see it, everything changes and it's no longer affecting it. That's your claim. So I disagree.
Objection.
Objection?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like Austin to repeat exactly what he just said there.
You can't.
Yeah, so basically you're saying we can see that it affects it during the change to the gaseous states, but what you're claiming is that when oxygen becomes oxygen entirely and you can't see it, that effect is no longer taking place. You're just claiming that the phenomena stops as soon as it becomes oxygen and we can't see it anymore, right? So I just disagree with that. We're watching it as it changes to the gaseous state, being literally spun around the magnetic field.
Okay. The reason I said objection was because I didn't catch everything you said.
Okay. Quick rebuttal, Brian, exactly. and then what's it? We'll finish this point out.
Okay. What I'm seeing, one more time, I'm being completely honest. I'm not seeing oxygen. I'm seeing a vapor, liquid oxygen being affected by in its phase change from liquid oxygen to the gas of oxygen by a magnetic field. But I'm not seeing it stopping it. I'm seeing it affecting it. As it's slowing down, it seems to be slowing down the phase change. So there seems to be more vapor hanging around. But then that is turning into the gas of oxygen, because the vapor is going down due to its density. That literally is literally proving my point of density. Is the denser vapor is going down, but when it becomes gas, it just fills the available volume.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Final, Whitsitt, your final thoughts on this subject, and this ends this claim. Go.
Yeah. No one's disputing the effect of directionality based on density. This is once again not being disputed. You just keep saying that, but you're skipping over the effect of the magnetism. And of course, I'm showing you. I didn't say that it stops it. I said that it affects it. You said that magnetism can't affect gas at all, and I showed you that it clearly can. With a demonstration. So that's just where I'm at with it. I said that it affects it. I said it's just a small portion of the observable phenomena of a gradient.
Done?
Done.
Brian, any more claims?
Yeah, I would like to speak about the phases of water, ice, water, and water vapor.
Make your claim and then support it.
What my claim is going to be to support. I could only just bring up exactly what I'm saying, more or less. So, if you want, I'll do that.
If you're going to make a claim, hold on. If you're going to make a claim, you need to support it. Are you going to need screen share in this?
No, I mean it's just going to be explanation of those three phases.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. We have the three phases of water. We have ice, we have water, and we have water vapor. Ice floats on water because it is a solid, but it's actually less dense than the liquid of water. This is for a very good natural reason. What people don't realize is what the ice actually does is, even though it makes the water that's directly under the ice very cold and obviously very dense. So the water underneath the ice is normally a lot more dense than the ice itself. But what the ice actually does in colder regions and over lakes and stuff is it actually creates a covering that creates what's the word I'm looking for? An insulation. So what happens is that marine life, what they actually do is they actually start in the colder months. They actually start to feed, and what they feed on lower at a deeper depth. But that water that's down there that would normally be colder is actually heated up, and they actually feed on this less dense. What actually happens is that because the water down further is being warmed up, what's happening is it causes convection within the water because the heat rises, becomes cold underneath the ice, then it drops back down and it heats up again. And the ice actually is a natural barrier that actually allows the marine life to continue being life, because it allows the marine life to drop down lower to a place that wouldn't normally have been there in the summer months to feed and to live, because it creates an insulation. That's one of the main reasons why ice floats. Now, water itself, we can walk on ice once it's thick enough. We can walk on ice. It's a solid, but it's actually not as dense as water. So because water is a liquid, we will only float and swim in water and whatever else, right? It's more got to do with your volume and how you spread yourself out and all the rest of it. But water then is evaporated and becomes water vapor. Now, water vapor is less dense than carbon dioxide, argon, nitrogen, and oxygen. It's less dense than all four of those. And what happens to water vapor is it naturally, right, even though it becomes part of the homogeneous gases we have, it naturally will reach up higher. And when it does, it then does condense. Some of it will condense and become clouds. Because if it didn't rise up, we wouldn't end up with clouds. If we couldn't get enough water vapor up there, we wouldn't end up with clouds. And the other thing it does is that it is converted into oxygen and hydrogen through a process that, as far as I remember, it's called photo dissociation, where the sunlight breaks up the compound of H2O into 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen molecule.
Brian,
and so,
sorry, round out your point.
My point is that these three phases of water have very different densities and very different forms. But for if
Brian, stop. Brian, hold up, Brian. Brian, drop from the call and rejoin, please.
And it is the reason for up and down.
Brian.
Of matter. Yes.
Drop from the call and rejoin, please.
Yeah, okay.
1 second, what's it?
No worries.
Me?
Radio check.
Hello? 1, 2, 1, 2.
I got you now, Brian. Summarize your point very quickly so we can get to Witsit.
Yeah, okay. My point being is that the density differences between water vapor, and ice is a completely natural thing that has to be there for life to be as it is in our world.
Okay, thank you.
These densities these densities are part of relative density equilibrium.
Okay.
And density
is the reason. Is that the end of your point, please? We're gonna have to round this out, Brian.
Okay.
You got, listen, both. You got to be concise. Don't go on long monologues. Be concise as possible. Witsit.
Yeah, I'm not sure I don't know what he's arguing against. I don't dispute the effect of relative density, so I'm not sure what that was.
Roger.
Arguing.
Brian?
Yeah, well, my point being, if I just use water vapor, for instance, that water vapor is less dense than the gases that make up air. And so water vapor will eventually, even though it's part of the homogeneous mixture, it will eventually rise up high enough to condense and become clouds. And that is a natural process. That the density, that it's a part of a natural process.
Right. I don't think Witsit will claim anything other than that. What's the underlying point as it relates to downward acceleration?
Well, how can Witsit prove that water vapor is rising up for any other reason other than its density?
Well, I've already said that density is going to have a much stronger effect. The relative density, how it affects directionality, is much stronger than the damn near negligible effect of the inherent electrostatic nature. No one's disputing relative density.
Brian, quick rebuttal.
Yeah. Okay, but Austin, is your claim not that the reason for up and down is electrostatics?
Yeah, the natural up and down is it's intrinsic that electrostatics is related because everything is electrostatic.
Okay, and how would you demonstrate that?
Well, you would have to actually provide. I made a very bold claim there, right? Everything's electrostatic. You would just have to provide something that isn't.
Well, it's not up to me to provide evidence for your claim. I mean, it's your claim that electrostatics is the reason for the directionality of a downward or upward vector of matter. My claim is purely density.
Okay, so can I guess I have to screen share again?
1 second. Go ahead and screen share. I'll give you the go when it's ready. You're good to go, Whitsitt?
All right, so I'm sure a lot of people have seen this video, but...
Okay, sorry, I'm seeing this now. I'm seeing this on Skype now. I wasn't seeing it before. Just let you know. Okay, here.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to actually increase incoherent mass, which again is just conceptual reification of gravity, but just for intents and purposes. As we actually increase the amount of matter that's incoherent, the quote-unquote pull, it gets weaker, but it still remains attractive. So this is showing you, which of course incoherent magnetism and dielectrics is the same thing. They're intrinsic. As you increase this compilation of matter, it remains attractive, but it gets weaker. We're measuring this right here in the demonstration. So it shows that it's always attractive. Always. Every single time. Both sides of this magnet, both sides are attracted to this incoherent mass. And so as you increase the size, it gets weaker, but it remains attractive only. And again, everything is electrostatic, including the Earth. So you would have to say that this phenomenon just gets thrown out the window when it comes to the Earth, even though it can be practically demonstrated. Done.
Brian, rebuttal.
Okay, what I would say about this is more of a debunk of what they call gravity, what the ballers would call gravity. There's more of a debunk of what the ballers would call gravity, but it doesn't show how a directionality, how it explains a directionality of matter, either a downward or upward vector. It doesn't replace relative density equilibrium as a valid explanation, because it doesn't show downward or upward. It just shows that it debunks basic gravity.
All right, Brian, that's it. Is that what's it? Go ahead. Yeah. Rebuttal.
Yeah, no one's trying to replace relative density. I don't know why we're like an hour into this and this is being misunderstood, right? Like no one's replacing relative density. That is not the objective here. The point is that this is attractive only. So if something falls to the ground, right, and it's electrostatic and it's falling to an electrostatic resonance of the Earth and it's attractive only, then that would indeed affect the downward bias that we have on this plane Earth that we live on.
Brian?
Okay. Okay. If you just go back to where you were just showing a minute ago with the ball bearings and that, are they magnetized?
Obviously, well, it depends. Yeah. No, not in the sense of coherent magnetism, which again is a misnomer.
Well, they look like they're being attracted to each other there.
Thank you. That's my entire point. They're incoherent, but yet they still attract. And as you increase the matter, it gets weaker, but it remains attractive only.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is these are magnetized, are they not?
No, they're not coherent magnets. They're incoherent mass.
So I can get several ball bearings and I can put them together and they won't try and stick together. So how come those ones are sticking together?
Because they have a natural electrostatic charge, but they're not coherently aligned. So that's why when you increase the mass, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker because you're increasing the incoherency of the matter as you add to it. But it's still electrostatics inherent in this, which is the same thing as incoherent magnetism, dielectricity. It's going to always attract it.
Yeah, but are they in any way magnetic?
Every compilation of matter is technically magnetic.
Okay, Now, right, hang on. This is my point, you see. They already have some form, they already have been magnetized in some way. They may not have a constant positive and negative, but they already have been magnetized in some way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing that. That's not analogous to what we see in reality. I mean, my point is that it's a false equivalency.
What's it? Rebuttal?
Yeah, it is analogous to what we see in nature because everything that we see in nature, and I mean literally everything, is electrostatic. Everything. You cannot name one single compilation of matter that I can't rub my feet on the ground and go touch and it transfers the electrostatic charge. Everything's electrostatic. This includes the Earth and any compilation of matter dropped to it. So yes, it is perfectly analogous to everything that we observe in nature.
Brian, rebuttal. That'll be the last rebuttal. Whitsitt will close this point out. Brian.
Okay. Yeah, I can rub my feet on the carpet or rub the cat, one of the cats, and create a static electric charge. But it's me doing that creates the charge. It's like these are phenomena that I'm not denying, but I just don't see how we have any support here for the claim that this is causing a downward and upward vector of matter. I'm not seeing it.
Whitsitt, close this point out, and then we'll move to the next claim.
Yeah, once again, because anytime you drop something to the earth and it falls down, what you drop is electrostatic. The ground is also electrostatic, although damn near negligible. It does have an attractive quality, right? That's why when you manipulate the density or something, it overdoes it. It overpowers it because it's so incredibly weak. And the earth, as you know, is very big. So it's a very big incoherent mass. So it has a very weak attractive quality. But nevertheless, all incoherent matter is electrostatic and thus also only attractive. So everything that we drop to the earth has an electrostatic attraction or acceleration. So.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any more claims left? Brian, claim?
But I don't really have
okay.
claim, just maybe a final thoughts.
Yep. Thank you. Whitsitt, any more claims? Just final thoughts?
Yeah, that's all, guys. Fine. That's all the claims I have. It's very simple, right? Like
one second
phenomena of downward.
1 second, sir. We're going to close out. Brian went first before, and you went last. Correct? Whitsitt, go ahead, sir. Final thoughts, 2 minutes each to restate your positions and summarize. Sorry.
All right. Cool. No, that's my bad. So yeah, I mean, I feel like my point is very simple. That's why the chat is so frustrating to read. I'm just going to stop reading it. But I haven't asserted anything without demonstration. I've showed demonstration for all of it. If you increase incoherent mass, then it actually is disproportionate to the attractive force. It gets weaker. So we can practically demonstrate this. In fact, you'd have to hand wave dismiss the actual practical demonstrations that I've provided as if they're not analogous to the Earth. You simply cannot do that because the Earth is matter. What you drop to the Earth is matter. Everything that's a compilation of matter is inherently electrostatic. Static meaning not moving, but of course, once it accelerates, you increase motion, which you're actually increasing the energy input or output of the object falling. So everything in existence that's naturally occurring is inherently electrostatic. That means everything that accelerates to the Earth is also inherently electrostatic, more specifically dielectric, which comes full circle. What's been misidentified as quote unquote gravity is nothing more than incoherent dielectric acceleration, and it's very, very weak.
Thank you, sir.
Done.
Brian, 2 minutes. Final thoughts, summarize.
Okay, thank you, QE. Okay, I have not seen any evidence tonight that is analogous to reality. I haven't seen any demonstrations from Austin that weren't a false equivalency to support his point concerning nature. We can see he doesn't disagree that relative density equilibrium is the thing, I don't think, but he's agreeing with that, but then he's stating that this other thing, electrostatics, is causing a downward and upward vector. He hasn't explained the upward vector part, and his explanation for the downward vector, there isn't enough meat on the bones of that. There isn't, he need to come back with more for me to accept that. So relative density equilibrium, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I can see and find out, seems to be a law of nature. that we can show with scientific method. We can show that it does happen. So I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. It hasn't changed my mind in any way. It's actually confirmed it more for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. We're going to move to, and this appears to be a short after show on questions. Like I said in the beginning, if you have a question for any of these two gentlemen, the time is now. Super chat, and I will ask the questions to each gentleman individually as they were received. Please address it to either Witsit or Brian, so it's clear for everyone to see and hear. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 comments. 3 comments from one person, Theo Megawordy. And these don't seem like questions. So his first one. For there to be a force of down as an acceleration, doesn't that mean there's a needed balance upward acceleration as initially claimed in relativity? That's his first comment. He didn't put it out to anyone, so neither of you gentlemen have to answer this one or the next one. Down only exists on flat Earth. Globes need inward. That's Theo Megawordy. And his last comment, wouldn't ever-present downward acceleration lead to increasing weight, needing ever-present upward acceleration to balance it? Smells like relativity. And the last comment, Unicorn Laser Eyes, great time, very interesting. Thanks, Unicorn Laser Eyes. I really appreciate that. So I'll give you another 60 seconds for anyone in chat to ask these gentlemen a question. First, I'd like to thank both Witsit and Brian. Listen, there's a couple places where it got a little heated, but overall, outstanding performance, gentlemen. This was easy for me to moderate. Only a few occasions where I thought I needed to butt in. Maybe I was wrong in that, but I wanted to nip it in the bud so we can conclude. But overall, gentlemen, my hat's off to you. Outstanding. Outstanding performance.
Great job moderating, bro. Breath of fresh air.
Appreciate it. I did my best. It was the first time officially in this capacity. I enjoy it. I don't enjoy it as much when I don't understand everything everyone says. So it was good. I like I said, I really enjoyed it, and maybe we can do this in the future. As of right now, it doesn't seem like I'm getting any more. We got Theo Megawordy. Gravity with a B/downity, non-contingent to shape of the Earth. So that's his next comment. You guys are getting left off the hook here. That's what it seems like to me. Come on. You guys don't have any questions or comments you'd like to make to these two guys? No?
Then maybe I should super chat a question for Brian.
No.
Yeah, get one in there.
No.
No,
Do not. No. That's cheating. And I'll have the bailiff whack your you know what.
I guess I need to go to my stock account just a
sec. The bastion of integrity.
I'd just like to say, if it's okay, QE, thank you for putting this together. I know that I approached you with it and that it was a bit of hassle to do, but I appreciate that you did it.
Yep.
And thank you to Austin for turning up for the debate, and not for turning up, but for agreeing to the debate, as this was needed. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you. Any last words? What's it? And I'm going to round it out.
No, just, the crux of my whole thing was the gravimeter shows different accelerations all around the Earth. So if you're just going to not explain that phenomenon, I find it dissatisfying. All right, there's a change in acceleration relative to the electrical field that we know exists on Earth. That's my take. I haven't changed, but that's about it. Thought it was super cool. Great moderating. Thanks for showing up. I think maybe we should do Flat for Flats more because it's much more informative and productive than any globe zealot that's just screaming their vain religious superstition.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks to both of you guys. I couldn't agree more. I am tired of it. Oh, we got one more. I'm going to take you guys off mute. We have the Adam Meakin. I demand a Supreme Court investigation into moderation of this debate. Other than that, great show. The three. I'll tell you what, I should have read that first, and then I went and kept the show going. So, again, thanks to Witsit and Brian. Again, outstanding performance. We'll try to do more of these in the future. It just depends on who wants to debate, who can stand up and give account for their position. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Have a great day. And you know what? Take no prisoners. No quarter will be asked. None shall be given. And remember, I'll be back.
Was that a debate? Was that a flat Earth debate that I just heard?
Mark Knight, he's here. He's here from Spain with his wife, Lena. And he told me last night when I picked him up at the airport, he's like, oh my God, they're going to be freaking with all the stuff that they're going to hear. And I'm very happy that they're both are here. Wonderful people, really great to have them here. And I'm thankful that you are here. It's a nice crowd, really nice. And yes, I'll give you the show.
Great. Okay, hi everyone.
Hi.
Okay, where to start? First thing, just make sure your mobiles are off or on flight mode. Toilets are through there if you need them. Just watch the wire. What we're going to do, we're going to fit a lot in to like an hour, just over an hour. And you're really going to have to just open up a little bit and put your belief system at the side. Because this sort of information, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of us who've come to these realizations, a lot of smart people, and it takes about 3 months of solid research to get to even a wavering point. So what I'm going to try and do tonight is just cram in a lot. Because I could do an hour on each little thing. I mean, there's about 200 subjects in this big subject. And you could do hours and hours. So I'm just going to give you an overview, a quick run through, and just take in as much as what you can. Or not. Just see how it makes you feel. What I'd kindly ask is, if you've got any questions, which I'm sure you will have, I've still got questions, is just wait till the end. Because otherwise, you know, the question, I might answer your question later on as we go on. So what's been happening recently, the past few years, there's this sort of rise of true cosmology. People are starting to question cosmology. And at the start, it sounds really crazy. It sounds like a bunch of crazy people. So we just need to cover some key aspects. And then as a group of people, as a species, we need to really think about some things. So the first slide, there are 2 ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. So this is something that we all come across in our lives when I realised that wasn't true. Oh, I realised that was true. This is something that happens to all of us as we go through life. Oh, that person wasn't very nice. I thought they were nice. So we're always going through these realisations. So I'm going to cover a lot. I'm going to go through a few different subjects. I'm going to look at the errors in mainstream cosmology, which everyone agrees on throughout the world. I'm going to look at the hand, who's behind this mainstream cosmology. I'm going to look at what's going on at the moment, the alternate trending cosmology. I don't have the answers, but I know what a lot of smart people are coming to, and we're all coming to the same sort of conclusions. Yeah, there are variants, but we're all talking about the same sort of thing. So there is alternate trends in cosmology. And on the internet, this is certainly trending. This is big stuff online. This is happening. I'm going to look at the sky luminaries, which is a very complex and maybe quite different to what we've been told. Again, I don't have the answers. Why is this happening now? Why does it matter? A lot of people say it doesn't matter. I've still got to take the kids to school. I've still got to do the laundry. So we're going to look at why it matters. We're going to look at why would they lie about this? Why would they lie? Who's they? What's the benefit? We're going to look at cognitive dissonance, and we're going to look at, well, what next? You know, we've come here, we've listened to this stuff, but what's happening next? So first off, I'm going to explain you're not here. We're told all our lives we're here. This is CGI. No human spaceship has gone this far and turn around. There's no one in this room or on this planet that can tell me this is a real photo. It's not. That's agreed. You can speak to astrophysicists. It's not a photo. You know, it's millions of light years in their model. If you ask one of these astrophysicists, what's at the edge of this universe, they don't know. What's at the edge of this expanding universe they believe in, they don't know. They don't know what's at the edge of this expanding universe. Isn't that a bit strange? I'm going to show you that you're not here. This sort of Milky Way galaxy. Again, that's not a photo. You know, we grow up, we think that's a photo. It's not. They will admit to you that's a computer image. No spaceship, if you believe in spaceships, can go that far. So we're going to have a little look at this Earth, this spinning ball Earth. There's some strange images. This is an image from 2012, official NASA. Official image, NASA, 2013. Size of America's changed a lot. You'd say, well, maybe it's closer or from a different angle, but then the ball size would change. So that's an error. That's an error. For me, the sea's never that blue. That's not right. That doesn't work. I mean, maybe they made a mistake. Maybe I'm at fault and they made a mistake. But then there's these other images of this spinning ball Earth we supposedly live on, and they all look really different. Which one do you live on? Do you know which one you're on? And again, we see all these different colours, different filtering, and we all just go, yeah, I live on this spinning ball. But these aren't real photos. There's more as well, different years, different size continents. They all look really different. And if they've been going up there since the late 1960s taking photos, it would all look kind of similar. You wouldn't have continents changing shape. And if you go to Google Images and type Earth from space, you're going to get pages and pages and pages of the same image. Until a year or two ago, when people like me, they started changing it and adding new images. But just 3 years ago, you'd have the same image for like 10 pages on Google Images, just different contrast. But what they say is, they actually admit it. They say it's photoshopped, but it has to be. And Blue Marble's the famous picture of Earth that's in all the schools and all the encyclopedias. They actually admit, if you research, these are photoshopped composite images. They are computer images. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact. They're computer images. And you get these other images, Canada's looking a bit underwater. They're to go to lunch, they're on Photoshop, they just did it a bit quickly. So, the official spinning ball model has curvature. That's pretty obvious. And this is the official astrophysics, university, Harvard model of the curvature. So if you walk in a straight line, flat, on the ball model, 10 miles, there is 66 feet of curvature. So you walk flat, and there's 66 feet of curvature in 10 miles. That's quite a lot of curvature. If you go 100 miles, flat, there should be on the ball 1.2 miles of curvature. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. It's not there. And I know how crazy it sounds. People have beamed lasers 27 miles, no curvature. People have seen lighthouses from, some lighthouses you can see from 70, 80 miles away. But if you do the maths on the one at southern England, it's only a small one, 180 feet. It should be 900 feet below the curvature. You shouldn't be able to see it, but boats can see it. I took this photo from Marbella, quite near where I live, and I could see these African mountains due south. I had a compass. And I went back home and I saw these mountains in Africa were just 200 meters high. So I did some mathematics. Okay, it's 86 miles away. I did some maths. And these mountains in Africa should have been like 2 kilometers below the curvature. The curvature's just not there. Now, I don't mind if we live on a ball. I don't mind, but it's got to act like a ball. You have things like periscopes on submarines. Now, if the planet was a ball, the periscope would only see about 2 or 3 kilometers. There's not much use, especially when they say torpedoes can go about 10 kilometers. So they're like looking with the periscope fire. It doesn't add up because the periscope can only see 2 kilometers, but the torpedo can go 10 kilometers. And on top of that, they say the torpedo can curve in water. That's not the case. It's not the case. It's not true. Torpedoes don't curve in water. That's crazy talk. There's a lake in LA, 23 miles long. No engineer on the project put any curvature into the cement or the road. 380 feet of missing curvature. I could do these for an hour. I could do these all night. I could show you hundreds of them. Another one, hardcore maths has been done, 86 miles away. Should be 1,000 feet of curvature. Should be below. You shouldn't be able to see it. It should go beyond the ball, the curve of the ball. And then we've got some photos from planes and helicopters. That's Dubai, which I would call a satellite station, but we'll come along to that later. Can't see any curvature. Tokyo, again, looks no real curvature. And what the mind does, it says, well, the Earth's really big. And I'll tell you, yeah, the curvature's really big as well. There's like, between the North Pole and the equator, you've got to get through like 3,000 kilometers of curvature. It's not there. It's just not there, bro. There you go. No curvature. There's some people in schools, some people into this alternate cosmology, they've sent amateur balloons up 100,000 feet. No curvature up there either. It's not there. There we go, it's another balloon that's gone up. Bit of a hot spot from the sun. We'll come on to that a bit later. The sun looks quite close there. Again, another balloon. And don't take my word for it. Go home and search balloon in space and have a look. I'm just one guide. Certainly don't take my word for things. There we go, drawn a little line on there. You know, that's a lot of distance we can see. This is interesting as well, is no matter how high you go, if you go up a mountain in the Alps or you're on an aeroplane, the horizon always goes to eye level. It always rises to eye level. And again, the mind goes, well, it's a big ball. But no, with the maths that they tell us, with the size of the Earth, you should see the horizon drop. Like think of a flea on a basketball jump, 3 millimeters, the basketball horizon would go down a bit, So even at 100,000 feet, the horizon's rising to eye level. That isn't right. I'm not an expert scientist, but that's not right. You don't have to be super intelligent to know that's not right. The horizon shouldn't rise to eye level. And what they do in their line, they're frigging things. So Google Earth, which is mainly cartoons, they tell you it's from satellites. They've just done planes and modeling from high altitude planes. They own a fleet of planes, Google, and they put curvature into their cartoon model. You can see their amateur rocket, 37 miles in Google Earth. Again, NASA photo. If that NASA photo was real, that glider would be about 1,000 miles wide. Doesn't work. So we catch them out and they're using Photoshop and they're using a GoPro lens to warp things. Now, this is we're just showing up what they do. This is Lake Tahoe, 22 miles of level water. And NASA gave us that picture. But in normal life, we see that picture, we don't mind. It's like, oh yeah, there's the Earth. And we go on and wash the dishes. We don't give it the attention we really should. This is Italy. Now for me, if Italy was that big, I could go there for lunch. I'd go there for dinner and walk there in 10 minutes. I'd go for I'll bring pizza back. Bring you all some pizza. And this yellow thing they put on, I don't even know what that is. This yellow thing, I don't know. So what's quite interesting to do, when you see a picture with this sort of curvature of the Earth, you just keep following it, and then you see that they're lying. Because the Concorde plane, it's not 3,000 miles long. I phoned up, when I was researching this at the start a few years ago, I phoned up this flight instructor, and I said, do you dip the nose down on your aeroplane? Because obviously with the Earth curving, the plane should dip the nose down every few miles. And she got really angry with me. It's online somewhere. And she said, no planes, I've been teaching flying for years, no planes dip the nose down. And I said, well, what? And then she got really angry, and I don't want to go into it. I was really hurt. Thought we could be friends. And also the gyroscope on planes is not an electronic device. The gyroscope hovers. The gyroscope is just a hovering thing, and it always shows the horizon level. It doesn't go down, then it doesn't go up, then dip the nose down, go up, dip the nose down. The gyroscope is just like this. So I know quite a lot of pilots who are into this true cosmology. I know a pilot who's been banned from his commercial license because he's interested in this information, and this is only going to get bigger. So what she's saying, this flight instructor, she says planes don't dip the nose down and it just magically stays at the same altitude. What if that were true? If the plane didn't dip the nose down and we lived on a spinning ball, the plane would find itself at 80,000 feet in just half an hour, and it would soon be in this mythical outer space in a vacuum.
There's gravity also.
Yeah, we're going to come to that, sir. It's last chance, speaking out. Okay, we've got the SR-71 Blackbird. I think it's taken out of commission now. Had a top speed of 2,193 miles an hour. That's 500 miles of curvature each hour. So it's getting through 500 miles altitude of curvature each hour. That's 700 feet of curvature a minute. So this guy should be really putting the nose down all the time and going at that sort of speed. That's just nonsense. That doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. This is facts. This isn't. I'm not making things up here. I'm just telling you something that's real. It doesn't add up. They've got radar systems now that go 300 miles. So what they're saying is that the radar goes round a ball. That doesn't really work. If you look into radar technology, it doesn't really go round a ball. It doesn't really work. So I suggest if you're on this ball and you're starting to wobble, have a little look at these radar systems and try and tell me, if you can email me, how these radar systems go round a ball for 300 miles, because they just don't work like that. The railgun goes 100 miles in a perfectly straight line. That's 6,000 feet of missing curvature. It's a photo of some windmills, the wind farms in the sea, 20 kilometers away. I think it was 19.8, a friend told me. Shouldn't be able to see them, should be below the curvature. But and I said it myself, you think, oh, but I've seen boats go beyond the curvature. You know, you're down the beach in Spain, you're having your ice cream, you can't see the boat anymore, you think it's gone below the curvature. But with these new P900 cameras, with this new zoom, you can bring the boat back. This is with a P900 camera. And there's a movie of this online. You just bring the boat back with a zoom lens. It just reappears. What it is, the boat's gone past the humanized vanishing point. And it can go beyond the camera lens's vanishing point. But we'll come on to that. So when you're looking into this sort of horizon, this line of convergence, you need to learn new things like the eye's vanishing point, how the eye works, what is angular resolution, what's an inferior mirage, what's a superior mirage. Because there's a lot of people who cling on to this, but the boat goes below the curvature. It's all been debunked. Unfortunately, I can't spend an hour on it tonight because I want to cover loads more stuff. You know, if we can see boats going over the curve of the horizon, then these boats are, you know, they're floating. These people who say the boat goes below the curvature, they don't even really know what's going on with the eye or the sea or the atmosphere. They just say it. You don't even really know why.
We're going to that later on, because I've always been wondering about how it really works with the eye. You know, where does it stop and why does it work this way?
We will have a slide on the line of convergence a bit later, yeah.
Okay, right.
This is quite an interesting one for you. So, if the sun was setting over a ball, over a curve, it would act like the top one. That's scientific method, repeatable, scalable, we've tested it. But what we actually see is like the bottom one, the middle one. So the top one is what we'd expect to see, but we actually see what happens in the middle one, where it's level. And here we see level again. That's what we experience. So we experience like this. The sun acts like a level, like it's acting on a level piece of water. Nothing seems to be bending anywhere. Nothing seems to be curving anywhere. So I want to talk about motions of the Earth. There are 4 motions, supposedly. One is the Earth spins 1,000 miles an hour on itself. One is it spins around the sun 66,000 miles an hour. One is that the sun, or the whole solar system, moves through the galaxy 483,000 miles an hour. And the whole Milky Way galaxy is moving through the universe at 1.3 million miles an hour. That's 4 crazy motions in a crazy spin. But we can see the same stars every night for measurably thousands of years. That don't make sense. I would expect some parallax. I would expect a little bit of parallax, where some stars nearer us would move at a different rate to some stars further away. This slide's not great quality, but it's just to show you that they say this star's 700 light years away, this one's 200 light years away, but they all move in perfect unison for thousands of years. I would expect, I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, I'd expect something like this if I was traveling through the universe that fast, some stars whizzing by, like on, you know, Star Trek, all the stars are whizzing by. I'd expect, you know, one a month whiz by. It's kind of normal with those sort of motions. It's another interesting one. Probably have to get your head around it in your own time. That summer solstice, you're facing away from the sun at night time. You see stars in the sky. 180 million miles later, December, winter solstice, face the sun daytime, face nighttime, face the stars. You're looking at an opposite direction, 180 million miles away, you can see some of the same stars in the sky. That ain't right. That ain't right. That's not right. I don't care what qualifications you got. I don't care who you are. That ain't right. You can't reconcile that with that. Polaris, North Star, every night spins in a circle. It's again another exaggeration, this slide, but I'm just trying to show you, with those motions, I'd expect something a bit more crazy in the sky. And the mind goes, oh, but those astronomers have worked it out. They've, you just haven't gone to school. And that's what the mind does, and the mind did it itself. But let's cover a bit more. What NASA do in the education system, they try and get away with this by saying Polaris is 2,604 trillion miles away. And your eye can see it. Yeah. And they say it's 44 million miles wide. But what, and I looked into this, I was looking into this full time, every day, years ago. I still do look into it a lot. There is no instrument or evidence that these stars are this far away or this size. There's no instrument, it's not measurable, there's no proof, there's nothing there. It's pretty crazy. Another thing, I spoke to someone earlier about this, they were sort of laughing, oh, you that guy, haha. And I said, have you ever seen a shooting star? We've all seen shooting stars in the sky, da 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 da. No human has ever seen a shooting star come up from below the horizon. On a spinning ball, you should. And the person went, refraction, gravity, relativity, just the buzzwords. Just didn't even know what they were saying, really. And this is a good one. When we talk about these motions of the Earth, if you fire a soccer ball out of a truck going at 50 miles an hour, you fire it out of 50 miles an hour from a truck going at 50 miles an hour, the ball just stands still. Boom. That pretty much tells me there's no other motions. And the motions they tell us we have, this, you know, these four crazy wild motions, there's not one instrument that can measure them. That's fact. That's fact. You can go up to Harvard and say, knock on the door and say, show me evidence of the Earth spinning, of Earth spinning around the sun. There's no evidence. There's not one instrument that proves it. So when you go further north on this spinning ball, your weight doesn't change. You don't find it harder to move. And of course, you just say, oh, it's all relative. Okay. The next two slides, I'll lead on from them. But is this really possible if the Earth's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? These smoke flumes from volcanoes, you would logically expect the smoke to be at an angle because the Earth's spinning. If a helicopter took off and hovered and the Earth spun, it landed from hovering, you'd expect it to be at a different place. But it isn't. Because what mainstream science says is the whole atmosphere is spinning as well. So they say the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and they say the atmosphere is spinning as well. So that means the higher altitude the atmosphere is spinning faster. Do you understand? So nearer this vacuum, they say that the air molecules are traveling faster than the air molecules nearer the Earth. That's how they get away with this helicopter thing. This is a wild accusation, wild theory they have, and it is a theory. But then I jump into this, when I see this image, I'm like, how can you have a spinning vacuum, spinning atmosphere with oxygen and all the rest, next to a vacuum with no border. The vacuum would just suck it out. That's how vacuums work. I went to see some about 3 years ago, and I said, I want to know how high this line is between the non-vacuum and the vacuum. No one knows where it is. They say, oh, it's around 100 kilometers. I'm like, can you show me something tangible, like scientific method? They've got nothing. I said to them, how does a spinning atmosphere become just a vacuum? They said it just gets less oxygen, less oxygen, less oxygen, stops spinning, and then there's a vacuum of space. I laughed at the guy. He got really angry. He was going to beat me up. And I don't want to fight today. I'm just going to get out of here.
Millions and billions of curse words.
So what they say is this mythical gravity, which we'll get onto, it knows where the atmosphere ends and the vacuum begins, and gravity holds a particle of oxygen at the edge of space. Now, if gravity were real the way they say it, it would surely pull the oxygen molecules to the Earth. But we'll come on to that. Just have a little think in your own time about this spinning atmosphere next to a vacuum. Because you start thinking about it and it's not right. And then you go and speak to scientists and they don't know. Then we've got a problem. This is another play on this. The atmosphere is a positive pressure system. The vacuum of space is a negative pressure system. Science is saying no barrier necessary. But a submarine, they want a barrier between the two pressure systems. Everywhere else we see we need a barrier between two pressure systems. Like in an aeroplane, you don't open the window in an aeroplane because it's a pressure system. But all of a sudden, at the edge of our atmosphere, they tell us, we're really clever and you're not. They call this the center of the galaxy. They've got nothing to back that up. They just what they call it. The Milky Way is a very new term. I call this the Dark Rift because a lot of ancient myths call this the Dark Rift. I've made a documentary about these myths. I'm not saying these myths are true or not. I just collaborated all these ancient myths about this thing in the sky that the ancients called the Dark Rift. If you're interested in it, have a look. We've got to move on, but sundials don't work on a globe, nor do compasses. Compasses have to be held flat to work. If you're in Australia, okay, you think you're on this sort of 5 o'clock on a curved ball. What, you hold this compass like at that angle, and then it goes round the ball. It just doesn't work. So gravity, we got there. This one's for you. You'll love this one. So what they say is with gravity, that it can hold, it's so strong, it can hold millions of tons of water to the underneath of a spinning ball. Even cargo ships, they're holding on real tight. But you can blow a dandelion and it just floats off. That's it. So we should all just go home. That's it. Let's go home. That's it. We're done. It's game, set and match. And this scientist said to me, oh, but the dandelion's got less mass. I said, your baby's got less mass, but it's not floating around the room. Because it's madness. So what they say is if this ball's massive, it will have the exact opposite effect. So when you spin a ball, the water falls off. And they say, oh, but at school we spun a bucket round. No, that's a bucket. That's different. This is a ball. So they just tell you if it's bigger, they say, oh, but this isn't in space. This isn't in space. So you just need to see in your own mind where you sit with this, because where we sit with it is generally what we were taught in school when we were at a very young age and our brains were very open. That's where a lot of this knowledge was pumped into us. And when we go back and look at it in a serious way, things don't add up. Some of these clouds are very heavy. They're like, this one's 1.1 million pounds, a cumulus cloud. So they've, what is it? They turn the gravity off for the cloud and turn it on for the water. Well, it doesn't. Anti-gravity machine. And your brain thinks, oh, but the science knows an answer for that. But it doesn't. I've been there all night, staying up, looking for this. There's nothing there. There's another one. If gravity, they say, oh, Jupiter's a big ball of gas. Gravity pulled it together. Well, this is a cloud they say is in space. Why hasn't gravity formed this into a sphere? Doesn't make sense. So gravity, strong enough to hold the oceans to a spinning ball, weak enough that the birds can still fly. So the moon, strong enough to overcome the Earth and Sun's gravitational pull and move mass amounts of ocean water, and yet too weak to pull a small amount of water in a glass. I won't come on to this now, a bit later, but moons, have a think why, if you believe the moon alone creates tides, why it doesn't affect large lakes and why it only affects oceans. There's a reason. But what they did, because people like me and there were others were all online putting this stuff out, they did this like 3 months ago. They said, oh, we found gravitational waves. And all they had was this picture of a pig's nose. And that's all they had. They said, we found gravitational waves. Because they've never found the graviton. It's a mental theory. It's a mental theory. If you go to Harvard and you say, show me gravity, they say, well, we don't really know. It's a theory. It's officially a mental theory. It's in your head.
They're calling us mental.
You know, so, I mean, you believe that. You actually believe your nan's on a cruise. But no one's ever seen that. It's never been measured. It's not repeatable. It's not provable. It's never been proven. I could go into this for a long time, but gravity is a mental theory of assumptions. It believes that things form a sphere. It believes it creates black holes. It believes it bends light over trillions of miles. All of these things are pseudoscience. They're not repeatable. They're not provable. There's no evidence. I know what you think. You think there is evidence. There has to be. You've missed something. But I promise you, I've spent more time looking at this than probably everyone in the room. So, wow, 30 minutes. Okay. This is how light would reach us from 93 million miles away from a giant sun. That's fact. And then we witness this. And what they say is this is crepuscular rays. And they say it's due to refraction. I mean, yeah, I believe in refraction. Light and water do bend light. But not to that amount. That's like wild. That's like, oh yeah, refraction exists. But that's a massive leap from believing in refraction to believing the sun is 93 million miles away. Quick look at the moon in these ball earth errors. If you light up a sphere, you get a hot spot. The moon doesn't have that. Here's a rock being lit. You get like a different shades. And here's the moon lit. We'll come on to this a bit later, but it's very highly probable that the moon illuminates itself. And I know how crazy that sounds off the bat. Here's for people that believe the moon's lit by sunlight. I mean, you can see this a few days of the month before the new moon, after the new moon. That's not right. This is a good one. We spoke about this earlier. If the moon is reflecting sunlight, why is direct moonlight always colder than the nearby moonshade? It acts very differently to sunlight. Plants act differently. Combustion acts differently. Temperatures act differently. The colour's different. To believe the moon is reflecting sunlight, I'm happy for I'll give any of you $1,000 if you can show me evidence that the moon is reflecting sunlight and I'm on camera, it's going online. I'll give any of you $1,000. You don't even have to give me anything in return. So when they went to the moon, I mean, if you believe that, you've just turned into the wrong, you probably thought, I'm going to go to yoga and you've come in the wrong room. If you believe in the moon landings, you're just probably in the wrong place. I mean, it's never been this bright when you're on the moon. If the ball model was real and the moon model was all real, if you were in Europe or Australia, you would see slightly different face of the moon, maybe an extra 20%, 30%. But every human in this reality sees the same face of the moon. No extra, no less. Every human, doesn't matter where you are. So that itself rules out this globe. You can see detailed areas on the moon. They say it's 238,000 miles away. The human eye is just not that good. I apologise for having to go quickly through these slides, but there's a lot of stuff I really want to cover. Water always finds its level. That's repeatable scientific method, scalable, observable. All rivers go into the sea. Seas don't go into the rivers. And this is a bit of a mind play. think about this tomorrow or something. Why doesn't the sea go into the rivers? On a spinning ball, should be about 50% of the time the sea goes into the river.
Estuaries, that's where the sea goes into.
There are a few exceptions like estuaries, yeah. But generally, on a spinning ball, you would have about 50%. It would be around half and half, not 1 in 100. So what you've got is this observable, repeatable, measurable scientific method. Water always finds its level, and this sort of pseudoscience, I'll call it pseudoscience because it's not provable, this sort of bendy water. So what all humans are programmed or believed to think is the top one. But I'm much more with the bottom one. Seems to make a lot more sense from what my direct experience in this reality is. Because what you believe, if you believe the top one, you believe you're on, I think it's Florida, you're standing on the beach in Florida, and to get to Hawaii, there's 6 miles rise of water, and then it goes down 6 miles. So you're believing that there's this big hump of water in front of you. That's kind of crazy. For me, I mean, you can believe what you want, but for me, that's a little bit wild. So they say there's all these satellites in space, thousands of them, all in orbit. And you're with your friends, oh look, there's a satellite. But I can tell you can't see something the size of a car 400, 300, 500 miles away. Your eye can't do that. You're just not possible. So what you're looking at, I would say, are high altitude drones, high altitude craft, high altitude planes. High altitude drones, they've had drone technology for decades. Satellites, this is in England. Satellites are all pointing, they're not pointing up, they're pointing to Luxembourg where there's a giant antenna. And what you found in like the 1920s when they started building skyscrapers, they put antennas on the top of all these skyscrapers. That's what's going on, it's triangulation. Your cell phone works on triangulation to the 3 nearest masts. There's a lot of these antennas in the ocean. Why would they be there if satellites existed? There's a lot of these tetramasts. And if you study how the internet works, you want to watch some football on TV, it's underwater fiber. There are millions of miles of underwater fiber. This is technically and officially known as how the internet works. Why would they put millions of cables in the ocean if there were all these thousands of satellites? I actually made a series online called the ESA hoax series. I looked into satellites and how they're a hoax. I phoned up ESA. I phoned up all their offices in Europe. All I got was, I said I want to speak to someone who knows about a particular satellite because I knew it was a hoax. And they said, there's no one here, just media department. Phoned up the next office in Germany. No, it's just media. Phoned up the next office in Italy. Do you want to speak to the PR department? There's no one there. It's smoke and mirrors. And you can watch my ESA hoax series. It just shows a lot of the ESA space footage. I'll get onto that. If you study online or in books how cell phones work, there's nothing to do with satellites. It's all triangulation. So I got a bit confused a few years ago about how a satellite gets into orbit. I would have thought that the satellite would fly off into space or gravity would suck it to the Earth. What keeps it at this finite point? No one knows. The scientists don't know. They say... But can you wait to the end, please, so we'll just have a free-for-all? I totally respect your opinions. But a force of propulsion obviously gets you out of this mythical border of the atmosphere, but then you just float off into space in the vacuum. Or, if you got your angle wrong, gravity would pull it down. So what gets them at this exact correct angle? And no one knows. Recently spent some time in the city of Freiburg, a charming place in southwest Germany in the Black Forest. Now, this area of Switzerland, southern Germany, has historically had great thinkers and great professors and highly acclaimed universities. And I found out one of the world's top astrophysicists, Dr. Bergigina, was here. She is looked at as a world expert in how the universe works and in exoplanets. She does TED Talks and is well known in astrophysics circles.
Out there in the universe. And the Earth is just one of them. In this universe, we are really tiny. We put Earth in the center of the universe. Then we realized something wrong with it, so we put the Sun in the center of the universe. Again, it was a little mixed. We put Milky Way in the center of the universe. Not so bad. And we found out in the end that there is no center of the universe. Our planet is just a single blue dot among billions of other stars and billions of other planets. We use these plants as prototypes of photosynthetic organisms in the universe. And then we build models for alien lives, how they could look. And when we puzzled with this question, how aliens can look like, we actually find answers in the backyard. When we detect life on other planets, we will understand and learn that we are not alone. And we are not special.
I wanted to interview her, but how? I thought about it and I created an alias, David Howard from Oxford University Media Society, and created some online material supporting this front. After some well thought out, tricky and delicate emails, I got the appointment, and with the backstory that I was collecting information for young students at Oxford. As I waited in the lobby of this advanced university astrophysics centre, I could see that this was a business, with funding, hierarchy, secretaries, etc. Now, before we get into the interview, for those new to the channel, know that gravity is just a theory, and my blog in 2015 explained the errors with gravity, and that it can be explained away by density and buoyancy. This blog had over 50,000 views, with not one person debunking it. Also worth knowing is that in 1931, a book called 100 Authors Against Einstein was published in German, and is in the description. This shows 100 scientists stating Einstein was leading science into pseudo-mysticism, abstraction, and speculation. It was crushed by mainstream science. Also know of the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias in which experts mistakenly assess their cognitive ability as greater than it is. It's related to the cognitive bias of illusory superiority, and also comes from the inability of people to recognize these experts' lack of ability. Obviously, in this interview I couldn't say what I really wanted to early on, as I didn't want her to walk out. I wanted her to cover more subjects and get more answers. So take a seat and buckle up, and this gets more interesting as it continues, and presents a big key, one the truth community has needed for a while. Okay, let's play. Yeah.
Okay. And this doesn't go to unedited somewhere. You will edit this?
Yeah,
somehow?
sure. You can swear or go to the toilet or whatever, it's fine.
Okay.
Sure. Hello, Dr. Bergigina. If you could just spend 1 minute or 30 seconds explaining who you are and what you've done.
Oh, yeah. So I grown up in Russia. I fell in love with astronomy, first with physics and then with astronomy. And I realized that I want to understand the universe. I cannot live on Earth without knowing what's above my head. I just felt like I need to know. I went to the university, studied astrophysics and mathematics, a lot of programming, because when we were studying astronomy, we were told that astronomy is not just science by itself, it's very interdisciplinary. So to be an astronomer or astrophysicist, you need to know physics, mathematics, programming, And I must tell right now, lots of social skills.
Yeah, sure. Great. I've got a few questions for you, mainly going to go to teenagers. They're probably questions you don't hear often, or you probably heard when you were a lot younger. The first one I'm going to ask is, it is said that a spinning atmosphere has no border. There's no physical border between spinning atmosphere and the vacuum. And the atmosphere gets less pressured and becomes the vacuum of space. At what altitude would you say that the atmosphere stops spinning? So gravity, they say, pulls the air molecules to the Earth, but there's still some atmosphere molecules higher up.
Yes.
At what altitude would you say these atmospheric molecules stop spinning?
Well, this is, I would formulate this question that, yes, okay. So the atmosphere spinning and gravitation forces for molecules. These are two kind of different, let's say, forces, yeah? So the spinning allows molecules to escape, actually, at certain heights, yeah?
Okay.
So they can spin and escape at some point. They escape through collisions also. There's the additional forces, they collide. So
they collide with each other, or with parts of the vacuum?
With each other.
Okay.
So in order to understand when the atmosphere ends, kind of, not like having a sharp border, but what we call atmosphere below and no atmosphere above. Yeah. Actually, there's another term called exosphere.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with exoplanets. Yeah. It was terminology before exoplanets were discovered. It's called exosphere. So that part of the atmosphere which escapes. So below that part, the atmosphere, if it exists, it's called atmosphere.
And it's spinning.
And it's spinning. And colliding, molecules colliding. But above, they already, the density is so low that they can escape because they cannot collide. They don't collide anymore.
And what happens to those molecules of atmosphere that escape into the vacuum of outer space?
Oh, they go on a cosmic journey.
Okay, and they stop spinning with the Earth.
Yes, they don't belong to the Earth anymore.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a set altitude, distance, where that happens?
Yes, of course. It is defined by density of the atmosphere, the gravity of the planet. But for the Earth, I have to look up. If you want me to look up, I'll look up.
No, that's fine.
I don't know that number. I know that the density falls off exponentially. Yeah. So I actually cannot say. I mean, we tell that the space starts approximately, let's say, at 100 kilometers, above 130 kilometers, something like this, that you can go on the orbit. I mean, this spinning means like the body spinning around the Earth means that it's orbiting Earth, yeah? Okay. So even if we put a satellite at 200 kilometers, it's still orbiting the Earth, even though it is not in the atmosphere. So we put satellites at thousands of kilometers above, and they're still spinning around the Earth.
They're still in low Earth orbit in this model.
They're still on the orbit. They're still spinning around.
Would they still be colliding with molecules of the atmosphere?
Yes, they will. If there are, at that height, yes.
Okay, great.
So everything is spinning around. All the also space junk, what we call, all this.
I've got a question on that later.
Okay, good. Okay. So everything is spinning, and my terminology it's orbiting. Astronomy terminology it's really orbiting the Earth at very